Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would do another week of Mikey's training. These have been very popular. People have liked them. They're like, hey, it's great seeing full workouts of what one of your clients does. As you guys see here, we started the week with a 1 rep max on the incline bench. Yes, that is a max. Notice how much he had to grind the lockout. Definitely a max for Mike. Of course, he benches 340. And I believe that was 265 for his incline. So again, we haven't been doing incline a real long time for him. He only got an incline bench a couple of months ago. We started working it in, but pecs were very much his weak link on his bench when we started. You know, I've had joke with that. I've seen clowns go into like Antonio's thing and said, oh, Blaha's projecting onto his client saying your triceps and upper back are your weak link. Well, no, those are his weak link. In the case of Mike, we had to put a ton of pec on him to get 40 pounds on his bench, right? We put 40 pounds on his bench by focusing on his pecs because they were his weak link. He was a 295 bencher, and we've got him up to 340 now, you know, within a year. So today we maxed on the incline, which we do every now and then because we base it upon his rep work because he's getting stronger on the rep work. It's like, well, it's time to PR this lift again. And that's the beauty of maxing on tons of different lifts, particularly a lot of your supplemental work, is that you can use the supplemental work and the rep work to know when you're ready to PR. That's why I have these guys do a lot of AMREPs on a lot of these things so that we know how to increase the weight. And we know that, hey, it's time to PR again. You got 13 reps at 10% of your 1 rep max. Well, that's no longer 70%, right? So if we had it at 70%, I misspoke and said 10. But then we did some football bar benching, and I'm probably going to take those out next block, and then more incline benching, JM presses, so on and so forth. I don't think we got video of the JM press for the first upper body workout because I got him to switch to reverse bands this time. Because I've been wanting him to do reverse bands, and he's done bands several weeks in a row. So then he had to figure out the reverse band setup. But I know I have a clip of it in here somewhere. Now, Mike is going to get an easier week next week. He's starting to get some hip inflammation. He's starting to get one side of his lower back is starting to get some inflammation. So next week I'm going to bring him down a little bit. And there will probably not be a video for that. I've got other stuff going on. But I'm probably going to give him an easier week, which means we'll still do the max work and the speed work. We'll cut most of his supplemental work out. We'll cut almost all of his supplemental lifts, and that's basically, for him, that's a deload. Because he needs one. He's starting to build and accrue a lot of fatigue. So what do I mean no supplemental work or very little? We'll probably just do a few rows and some reverse hypers outside of his max work and speed work. But look, I was wrong. Apparently there is a JM press in this rotation. I was peeking for it when I threw all the footage in here and I didn't see it at first. Yeah, so there's using reverse bands. So for those curious why we would use reverse bands instead of bands. Well, bands create an overspeed eccentric. They create more micro tearing when you push against the bands. They cause more micro tearing in the muscles. It's very effective, but it can create a lot of DOMs. So we use it for speed work, max work, some rep work, but just be aware that it can cause a lot of DOMs. Now, it can have a lot of benefits, potentially for hypertrophy because of the eccentric loading. You know, people will say things like, oh, eccentric reps build muscle, then they don't do anything to enhance their eccentric rep, they just do it slower. Well, that's never been found in studies to do anything. That's not, it's eccentric loading. You're using the same weight, you're just lowering it slower. That doesn't do anything beneficial. Bands create a larger eccentric response. That would be an example. But in this case, we want to just use the bands to relieve stress on the elbow. Because I had him doing, JM presses for a while, and I worry about elbow inflammation for a lifter who does them long term. So by doing the reverse bands, we unload the weight at the bottom and still allow them to lift a heavier weight at the top because the reverse bands do not jerk on the bar downward the same way. Okay, so it's easier on his elbow. It unloads the tension a little bit at the bottom, which is the part where we tend to inflame the elbow the most and the tendons around the elbow. So it gives some relief there. And we can do those things in phases. You can use reverse bands, you can use chains, whatever you have available to you, whatever you need to do on a lift like that. And then we can go back to straight weight, after a while when we're sure the tendons are good. And then he did finished off with rows and snatch grip high pulls. He's getting stupidly strong at those snatch grip high pulls. He's stronger than I am at them at this point. Then we did a box squat, a regular box squat. 2 parallel. We'll see if it's parallel. Yeah, it's parallel. I put parallel on the sheet. He got 415, which is a box squat PR for him. And we haven't tested his back squat in a long time. I'm not quite sure where it is. I can promise you it's higher than 415. Because again, we're always stronger when we remove the box. So, I guess he did another one after that. I guess I have 2 clips in there. I think the other one was a 405, so this would be the 415. Let's see how this one looks. A little bit of rocking, but not bad. So I'm going to assume his bench is probably, or I'm sorry, his squat. I'm going to misspeak a lot. It's early in the morning right now. I'm going to assume his squat is probably around 430. That would be my guess, 430, 435 if I were to test it. Then, of course, afterwards we do safety bar squats. Anyone who looks at a lot of my lifters who's seeing their actual training between him, the other blog that Antonio has, my guys do a lot of safety bar squats. Not all of them, but I'm pretty big on them. Now I'm about to take them away from Antonio because he's getting ready for a powerlifting meet, and we need to get his straight bar mechanics back perfect because it's his first meet. So I'm going to probably take all the safety bar work out. But for general build-up, I'm a big fan of the safety bar these days. And I'd say at least 50% of my clients have access to one, if not more. So we use them. We use them a lot. Again, we're forced to use a lighter weight, easier to recover from, hits the quads just as hard, hits the upper back hard. We could argue maybe not hips and glutes as effectively, but definitely quads, definitely upper back. Then had him do cambered bar good mornings again, and I think these are coming out of his rotation soon. I've been pushing these really hard for a long time. He has his max up over 400 on this. He does rep work with 70% of that. And he's gotten strong at them, but I'm probably going to rotate in for him some safety bar good mornings, right? Rotate in some safety bar good mornings because he has access to both bars. Again, people will notice I'm a big fan of both of these bars. I use them myself, and when I have clients who build home gyms, guess what? I tend to say, hey, these are bars that you need to have. So a lot of my lifters have both. And right now, 7 of my people have reverse hypers, Mikey being one of them. I'm a big fan of these 2 bars. Anyone who watches my own training vlogs knows this. I'm a big fan of the reverse hyper. Right, this combination of those 3 devices together bring an enormous amount to the table. They bring a lot to the table. Then, of course, he does some Pendlay rows. And we're trying to get stronger at these because we need to build his middle back and stuff up more. But I'm at a point, too, with him where it might be time to throw some chin-ups back in. Right, we might be at a point where Mike needs more chin-ups. Because, again, we want to make sure we build the lats completely. And lately I've been having him do just rows and snatch grip high pulls. But we might be at a point where we need to work some weighted chins back in, which he's actually pretty good at. He's got big arms. So as you can imagine, he's not bad at chin-ups. Then, of course, reverse hypers, which are a mainstay. Any of my lifters who have a reverse hyper, we obviously use it every week. Okay? And he does it on off days, too, by the way. He does these on off days also because he had a major low back weakness, and we're working on that because that's been holding back his deadlift, right? Because he's got a back, he's got hamstrings. So we know he's got those things, but we really just need to get that lower back and those glutes a lot stronger, and the reverse hyper is a great tool for that. And he had a lot of problems with pulling his low back early on. Right, a few months back, before we got the reverse hyper, I want to say like 6 months ago, he was having problems pulling his low back on deficit deadlifts and things like that. So he got this tool. We use it. We're pushing it hard. It's something that I wish every lifter had access to. Wish all of them did. Then we did his dynamic effort upper day. And again, people can go to the first 5 seconds of the video if you want to see the full week mapped out on my spreadsheets. Check it out. And I actually had one other coach who has a smaller channel came through and said, yep, I'm stealing that for my clients. And I'm like, go for it, brother. It's the way I've done this since day one. This is the way I've always coached through online coaching, is to use those spreadsheets. Something I came up with very early on, started using immediately, realized it works great. And I was coaching even before I opened the business officially to my channel. I was already coaching a few people. And so I had already come up with some of these methods to use for online coaching. So you notice on his speed bench, it's quite fast, obviously, even with 100 pounds of bands. Very fast. We've got him extremely fast on speed bench. And again, note that we change grips. So I have him do 3 sets wide, 3 sets medium, 3 sets close. And that's how we do it, which is very similar to how they do the speed work at Westside for speed bench. A lot of people ask, hey, why does he set up that arch if he's not going to compete? Well, because it's the best way to bench. You should bench with an arch. Use the arch that you're capable of using. And he may compete. We've talked about it. Maybe in about a year, he might compete. And probably by the time he's ready to compete, I'll be ready to start competing again. So we actually talked about possibly a road trip and then doing a meet together. Might be on the agenda. We'll see. We'll think about it. We have time to think that through. A lot can happen between now and then. But it's just an idea we batted around. So in the longer term, he does want to compete. But we need to get his deadlift up. And people need to remember, though, most of my clients are not powerlifters. As far as athletes go, I have more fighters than I do powerlifters. So I'm not a powerlifting coach. I'm a strength coach. Right? Mike doesn't compete in powerlifting. We're looking at it in the future. You guys have seen Doug. Doug doesn't compete in powerlifting. You guys have seen Doug's stuff, seen his list. You've seen him post and talk a little bit in the comments and on Facebook. And I've put all his benching and stuff up. Then we have the reverse band JM presses again. I think he's got these down pretty well to finish off his triceps. Although you guys will notice there still tends to be a very heavy chest focus for him, right? We do a lot of chest work. It's just that during this block, it's football bar and incline benching. But, again, his delts do need to get stronger. We are noticing his front delts a little bit on that incline bench for a weak link. But the incline bench itself will bring that up. And he hit muscle failure there, by the way. So for those who noticed, he hit failure. He couldn't re-rack it. So he trains hard. With a lot of this stuff, we try to get within one rep of failure. Try to get 1 rep in reserve, 0 reps in reserve, but sometimes you're going to hit failure, and that was an example. There's a reason he has big arms like that. And more rowing, and then when we get to his snatch grip high pulls after these rows, he's moving like a monstrous weight now. I think he said, Coach, I'm up to like 265. Because I have him just do these with reps in reserve. I basically have him use the heaviest weight that we can get 10 reps with 1 rep in reserve. And then so he'll AMRAP the last set each time. And when he starts hitting 12 and 13 reps, he knows that he needs to keep adding weight. Because I don't have percentages of maxes to work off of for these. But he has just gotten repeatedly stronger and stronger and stronger at these. And notice, again, he's got traps, he's got shoulders. This is a drug-free lifter. And legitimately drug-free. Legitimately drug-free. I don't mean internet natty. I don't mean, like, all your guys who are on YouTube claiming natty, none of them are. If they've got a big outreach, even if they're competing in something and they're tested, odds are they're not natty. Don't buy that. He is actually natty. But look how many years he's had to put in. Look how hard we have to train. And notice he is not lean. Right? He's at a healthy body fat. He's at an athletic body fat, but he's not lean. It's one of the rules that I tell people. You can pick one of these 3 things. Okay? You can be big, you can be ripped, or you can be natty. So you can pick 2 of those 3 things. You can only have 2 of those 3. You can have 2 out of the 3. Pick which ones you want. Can't be big and ripped and be natty. Right? You can be big and you can be natty. You can be ripped or you can be natty. or you can be big and ripped. In this case, Mike chooses to be big and natty, not ripped. In fact, we've bulked him. He's put on 15 pounds since I've been coaching him, and it's mattered. But you guys quickly saw too the speed squats and the speed deadlifts. And again, we rotate waves for him. We usually do 3 weeks of conventional, 3 weeks of sumo against bands for him on the speed pulls. For the speed squats, I just rotate bars. I keep him on bands year round because he has enough bars and equipment. We can rotate the speed waves. So we just use bands all the time for him. We never pull the bands out. He doesn't have chains, and that's fine. Bands are slightly superior anyways for speed work. And more cambered bar good mornings. Good mornings. Something, again, I've said in the past, Team Blaha lives on good mornings. Just like you guys see me live on good mornings. And I showed a whole collage of a bunch of my guys doing good mornings before for the Greg Doucette argument, which Greg displayed himself as a complete ass clown in, incapable of critical thought, incapable of defending his own arguments, complete ignoramus. But my guys live on good mornings. So yeah, they do them twice a week. We do good mornings every lower day. My novices do them, my advanced lifters do them, my elite lifters do them. We live on good mornings, and for good reason. Do it for good reason. They bring so much to the table. So after that, he finished off with, again, more rows. More rows. You're like, man, you have him row a lot. Yes, we do. He does do a lot of rowing. He needs it, right? We needed to thicken his back up a lot. He was all quads and arms when I got him. And then, again, reverse hypers to finish off. Now that is a big, beautiful combination too. Okay, notice all the good mornings and reverse hypers. These exercises complement each other extremely well, right? If you want to build a solid back and posterior chain, that combination, and especially if you've got multiple bars to rotate through for good mornings, and you have a reverse hyper, that is a magical combination. It will work wonders for your posterior chain. And if I wish that everyone did both, but it's not always possible. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.